Hey, hello there, and welcome to Talking with Tony. I know that if you've seen the show, season 14, you're aware, but if you're new to it, I think it's fair to repeat that the first 13 seasons of Talking with Tony, if you're looking for it, they're very hard to find. There's some outlaw sites that have a few episodes online that you'll be able to come find. But the rest of them, we were under WOW, and we are no longer there. We're free to publicize now on YouTube for the whole world to see. Also available on Spotify. Jake Barton's done a great job there. I think you'll enjoy listening to the episodes there on Spotify. When you do that though, you don't get to see good-looking guys like my guest today, our college football lead analyst, Danny R, pro football lead analyst as well. Danny, thanks again for joining us. And before we begin, I have to congratulate you on being unpatriotic and picking Europe to win the Ryder Cup as they defeated USA, and you were absolutely correct. You were hoping to be wrong, but you were so right.
Yeah, and I think when we actually had the discussion, we talked about that, the starting off, getting to a good start and be the only way they could do it, and they went, 0-4 right off the bat. So, man, I hated it when it happened, but the numbers said it.
And then that afternoon in the four balls, it seems like the Americans were going to win it just a little bit. And on the last two matches, we lost like 17 and 18 and then 18 on the other. And instead of gaining ground, we didn't. And that was a big fallback too. I know they were all happy the fourth session, the afternoon session on Saturday, but really the deficit was too big.
I mean, it's just you couldn't overcome what they were getting behind, and I knew they may come out that way and get behind, and that's why I picked them. I really wish they would have won, but
yeah.
It's crazy though. I mean, was that not unbelievable? Some of the plays.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. I like seeing Koepka beat the Swedish kid. Once again, how you say his name? Aberg,
I think.
Yeah, okay. And then Koepka came back and won the last live event that was singles event. They'll wrap up with a team event in Miami at the Blue Monster, Trump's Blue Monster. Danny, last week I mentioned it. I wanted to get your input just a little bit. Like, sure, stand with Israel on this show, and our hearts and prayers are going out for them. Just really worried about the future of not only our country, but now of the world and what all may happen.
Yeah, I know. We have to. You come home, you take a look at it, and I think there's a lot of people that don't watch and see what's going on. But I mean, you get home, I can't help but watch and see what's going on, and you're eager to see what happens. This younger generation had never seen anything like that, and I try to talk to my kids about it all the time. But our prayers are out to them and really to everybody involved because you just don't know. It's such a crazy situation.
We are generally a sports show, but we certainly pay attention to things that are happening worldwide that are affecting so many people and all, especially those innocent victims, the innocent Jewish victims in Israel. We're generally a sports show. We also talk some books. We also cover some movies, and we talk some music sometimes. And I know the Rolling Stones, I know you're a huge believer in them. Potentially, I don't want to say it for you, but probably your favorite band. They've got a new album coming out on Friday, and I know you're pretty pumped about it.
I'm so excited. I can't understand it. 18 years since the last release, and even that one was more just some, hardcore rockers. I think they call it the Bigger Bang. I didn't get any hits off of that, and I know you and I have talked about some of the hits they had, but they're releasing Hackney Diamonds on Friday. I already got it on my Apple Music ready to go. They had a couple of previews of two songs already, but I'll probably have a little bit of an unhealthy relationship listening to the Rolling Stones. I do a lot of commuting. I have been for 25 years now, and I can usually get in one Rolling Stones album straight from home to work. I'll try to play it at home. Xander's always like, "Do you not listen into your car to this?" I can't listen to any more of this. I'm like, I do listen to my car, and you're going to listen to it. So, anyway, I can't wait to see what happens. They're saying it's going to be a great album. And when you think about these guys, 80, they lost, Charlie Watts, but 81 to 82 years old. I mean, it's just crazy they can still do it,
Yeah, if you would have had me speculate on who would have passed first, I would have had Charlie Watts passing last. I would have had Keith Richards or Mick Jagger passing before him. It's sort of like the Eagles. My money would have been on Joe Walsh to go first. he's still with us when Randy Meisner has passed away, and before him, Glenn Fry has passed away. I've never seen the Rolling Stones. That's on the bucket list to see in concert. I've seen almost everyone else that I can think of that I've wanted to see. I have seen. I'm a huge Depeche Mode fan, but I love like their mainstream stuff, their hit stuff, and they've gotten away from that. You may get to hear "Enjoy the Silence" and "Everything Counts" and a couple other hits, but they just played Atlanta Sunday night, and they didn't even sing some of their, like, the Policy of Truth and People Are People. They've gotten away from that, and I don't want to see that what they're playing right now. I know that you've seen the Stones. I know that it was a great night for you, and I know that if you have another opportunity, if they go on tour again, you look forward to going again.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm going if they come on tour again, which you would think they would, right? This is a big release. They still seem pretty healthy, and they make $10 million a show or something crazy like that. So I think they will. And like I told you, you and Terry need to join along for that since it's on your bucket list. Because when we went and saw them in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which again, I'm going to go see them somewhere else, and I'm not trying to knock the venue. It's a beautiful venue, but I don't think it's the best for the concerts.
Yeah.
And it was still good. Blew me away. I didn't even I couldn't even stand up, and I was just sitting there watching and taking it all in. It was so good. So, maybe they'll play your favorite song when you go see it.
As Tears Go By, written in 1964, but they handed it off to a friend of theirs. They weren't really that crazy about it. In fact, their manager, they were bickering and arguing so much. Their manager went to them and said, "I want y'all to write a song. We're going to lock you in a room, either in the kitchen or the bedroom together. And it has nothing to do about drinking or having affairs or anything like that. Or I want y'all to write a song." And they did. They weren't crazy about it, but a couple of years later, 3 or 4 years later, they did release it, and it was a huge hit. They don't play it very often now. You can find a YouTube version. It's like an acoustic version, and I love it. And Mick even says, "We haven't played this song in a long, long time," but it just seems like they both appreciate it, and probably appreciate the longevity of it. Reminds them of just where they've come, and now. Really, Danny, you could say 60 plus years, these two guys have been playing. That just doesn't happen. That and the Aerosmiths and all staying together and all that just doesn't happen.
No, it's crazy. I mean, you think about everybody's like, "Oh, are the Beatles better than the Stones?" And the Beatles were, exceptional. They changed the world, right? But they didn't make it. They barely made it in the 70s. And you still got the Stones going around touring, releasing albums now, all new hits. It's crazy. I mean, and the thing I like about the concert, and they've got to play the hits for everybody that goes, right? The mainstream people want to hear, the hits. They'll usually throw in a fan vote for the people that really like it. Like I was telling you, the last time they played "She's a Rainbow" was the fan vote in Atlanta, and that blew me away because never heard that live, And I just think it's, they got such a big collection of songs. You can listen to them for days and get the hits. But then they got all these that most people don't know about that are, my favorites,
Yeah. And I'm curious to see when this album drops, if they can crack the Billboard top 40 again. When you and I were in high school, we would drive around and listen to the top 40 or spend the night at each other's house, sometimes even write it down and stuff. And that was when I like the best years for music. I want to see, because I was doing a little research on them, and they already have the record in Germany because they go back to a number one song in 1968. The flower. What's the title of it? The Flowers of the
December's Children and Everybody Else or something. I don't know. It's a weird name, but yeah.
And then they came back and they had another. It's the longest gap ever in Germany of having number one hits. I'm not saying that they'll have a number one hit in the top on this top 40, but they've been able to knock on the door. They've had a couple of in somewhat recent history, top fives. That's remarkable to me, including the COVID times. They hit number 5, and that is really cool because usually, like, when you think about like bands that you follow and stuff that were big, say in the 80s, if they're putting out new music, it's not charting enough. And I think they'll chart in the top 40, and that will be really impressive, because then you could say, here's a band that charted in the 60s and now they're charting in the 2020s also.
It's crazy. I mean, I think they will definitely do it. I mean, this last song they released, and I think when the full album gets out there, you'll see it. They did a couple of sneak previews. They put Sweet Sounds of Heaven, and they got Lady Gaga singing background. I'm sure that's to bring in some of the younger people. But I guarantee you that they'll chart a couple of songs off of this album. It's going to be good. So I advise everybody to do it and listen to it.
Well, what you say we get to some football picking? You and I are doing very well. Danny, it amazes me. Stanford Steve, who's a very knowledgeable guy, Scott Van Pelt, who's a very knowledgeable person, and they have all these resources at their capabilities. I think Stanford Steve's like a dozen games under 500 this year. Scott Van Pelt is worse. He even admitted it on last week when he gave out his picks, and then last week was even worse than he had been doing. You've got these guys, Tyler, Joe, Aaron, and Nita. They track what they do. They all have some nice, good little runs, but overall, under 500, not doing well at all. I'm 27-15 in the football season this year. You're right behind me. You are 24-16. We are running laps around the so-called experts. And what do we have? Our eyes and our memory. And, they've got all these resources. Can you explain how we are so good at something that the experts at ESPN are so terrible at?
Well, I really can't explain why that is. I do know we're laughing on pretty hard. And I think you've always been great. I mean, I say that every time I'm on the show. And I've been pretty good at it, me, I like to sway and start trying crazy money line stuff. But, against the spread, I'm doing well this year, and I'm feeling good about it. I expect you to continue. So I'm eager to see what your picks are with some of mine to see, if you're going to widen the gap or if I'm going to close it. But I certainly feel like we've got enough of a lead, similar to the Europeans at Ryder Cup, that we're gonna beat these ESPN people for the year.
There's no coming back from the deficits. They have to come back, especially Stanford Steve and Van Pelt. I mean, they have been so terrible. You on your 5 stars have been 3-2, which is not bad when you consider that you also wanted to include Europe as a 5-star because you felt that good about it, and we let Stormy be a 5-star with the USA, and we didn't really knock him on his pick. We have Stormy's picks and Brian's picks to run down as well. But you've been coming along on the 5 stars. I was going to open with that, but actually, since I'm wearing, as I always do, Ohio State players' jerseys, Sonny Styles, the sophomore defensive back, he's exceptional, and we hope Denzel Burke will be good enough to play against Penn State this weekend, who missed the Purdue game. That's the opening game. Ohio State's favored by about, I've got 4 down. Some markets it's 4.5. Earlier in the week, it went down to 3.5. For our purposes, we will say 4. What do you think here?
Well, I mean, obviously, I think best game of the week coming up, right? No doubt about it. With these 2 undefeated teams, Big Ten rivals. I don't think you're going to have a high-scoring affair. The Penn State defense is, incredible. I've been watching good defense for the last 2 years, being a Georgia fan, and pretty good defense this year. But they seem to be the real deal on the defensive side of the ball. So you're not going to get a lot of scoring opportunities. I think it might be raining a little bit. And I do think that the Ohio State running backs are going to be able to move the ball and keep the ball moving. I'm taking Ohio State -4.
I just hope there are some running backs. Chip Traynham.
I mean, I'm with you.
Suffered a concussion last Saturday. Williams and Henderson, the top 2 running backs, were already out, and they were wanted to redshirt Dallin Hayden, and they had to put him in. And he could still be redshirted right now, but I think they're going to need him this weekend. And then they had to use Xavier Johnson at running back also, just like they did last year in that game against Georgia in the semifinal. So they're real thin. The hope is that Henderson and Williams might be back, though. So we'll see. Abuka, the exceptional wide receiver, didn't play at Purdue either, but there's always Marvin Harrison and Julian Fleming, and then some great freshmen too, Carnell Tate. But I do believe Abuka will be back on the field. So I hope you're right there. I'm going to skip that one. I've got no pick. I want you to go to Air Force at Navy. So much attention always goes to the Army-Navy game, but the others, we always have this matchup as well. And Air Force is looking at a different quarterback. They've been sensational this year, and they've been sensational at covering the spread. This is that rivalry game, and then a new quarterback. I got some question marks here.
Yeah, I mean, and even back in high school, but then I always, wasn't into the service academy games as much as you were, right? But you always dragged me into it, wanted me to watch it, see what's going on, kept me abreast of what's going on. So I don't know, as much about the service academy games as you do. But I did watch a good bit of the Air Force Wyoming game, since we had that as one of our picks, right? Mm-hmm. And I do believe, Wyoming was able to get into that win. covering at least. And Navy's played well at home. So even with the high scoring offense of Air Force, I'm going to take Navy in the points.
Okay. I totally get it. Totally do. Iowa, talking about a team that plays great defense, but is searching for offense, and now their top throwing target, the transfer from tight end. It's actually now you've lost the quarterback that's transferred from Michigan, and you've lost his tight end too. And this is a significant loss for them, but they are exceptional on defense. They're favored only by 3.5. What do you think?
Yeah, somebody was going to ask you, what do I not know that the bookmakers do know? Because I do think it's going to be a low-scoring affair, right? There's not going to be much forward passing in this game. You might be hearkening back to the days before forward pass, almost. One quarterback had 67 yards last week, and the other one 54 or something. I mean, so look for a slugfest. Iowa does have the defense to do it, and I predict one that'll be the week's shortest game. Okay, and two, I'll take Iowa minus 3.5.
Okay, I'm going to make a selection here. I'm going to go with the Golden Gophers plus 3.5. So, somebody's got to win this. Iowa is the favorite on that side to win, and they're probably the best team. They probably need to defensively. They could stay in the game. Somebody, but their losses last year, especially Charlie Jones, the wide receiver, and all, kept that game competitive against Michigan. I don't know if they'll be able to do that this year against either Michigan or Ohio State if they are indeed the representative. But I like the Golden Gophers in that one. So yeah, that's the first one, my first official pick, and that's also the first time that I would definitely go against your train of thought there. Washington State's at Oregon. Oregon lost a heartbreaker last week. They were in position. Bo Nix apparently talked Dan Lanning out of kicking field goals and going for it on 3 different occasions. It did not work out once, twice, 3 times a lady. I don't know how you rebound from such an emotional loss. Washington State was blitzed, though, by Arizona. So they're not playing as good as they were playing at the beginning of the season. Also, 20 points. Are you worried about Oregon coming out of this physical, emotional contest not being able to rebound, or do you think they blow out Washington State?
Well, first, was that a shot at Bo Nix being an ex-Auburn guy, or did he really talk him into doing it? I haven't read that anywhere.
He always wants to go. The cameras are always on him, and he's always saying, go, go, go.
Every quarterback gives him the go,
You can't do that, though. Sometimes field goals will win the game.
All right, I got you. I like Dan Lanning, obviously coming from Georgia, right? Every Georgia fan is pulling for him, and every Georgia fan was pulling for him, against Washington. I didn't like the 4th down tries. I mean, again, maybe that's the Vince Dooley in me, and even Kirby Smart, he plays it close to the vest like that too. But I get why. At first, he's trying to keep the ball away from Penix. I just didn't like it, and I think he cost him the game. But to your point, Washington State is going to get waxed, man. They're going to bounce back. They're going to get over the big letdown. They're well prepared and much better talent, field roster. There's no way they don't do it. So I'm taking Oregon in minus 20.
Okay. You have a 5-star pick in this next game. I don't know which direction you're going, but it's the Balls in Alabama, what they call it, the 3rd Saturday in October, I believe is the saying there. And for years, this game was played when Bama was the home team at Legion Field and in Birmingham instead of at home in Tuscaloosa. Bama favored by 9. Bama hasn't been clicking completely, but they've been doing enough to escape with victories against A&M, again against Arkansas. What about this week?
Well, one, I can't stand either team, right? So I do enjoy watching the misery of whatever side. But, first thing I got to say is just that game last year was what college football is all about, right? And it was an ugly kick. It was an ugly win. But that's what, being a home team and having a good team running is what football is all about, right? I don't like that it started the trend of everybody rushing the field for no reason. But anyway, Tennessee has looked terrible this year on the offense. I mean, it's really unbelievable that they haven't been able to score more than they have. But I think that this is another low-scoring affair. You just don't see Alabama putting up the numbers either. That was crazy last week against Arkansas, right? So I'm taking the Vols plus 9, man.
Okay, Tennessee, Danny's 5-star pick, the Tennessee Volunteers +9. Texas is on the road at Houston, but they'll have as many fans there as the Houston will, favored by 23.5. Houston pulled out quite the contest against West Virginia. Hail Mary. They're going to need a lot of help here. But what about the number, Danny? Does Texas go higher than 23.5?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I don't think there's, that was almost, I know that's a big number, but I mean, I picked a big number with FSU last year, or last week as my 5-star too. I almost went with that one. I feel like they're going to cover the 23.5, no problem.
Ole Miss is favored by 6.5 over Auburn in our final SEC game to discuss here. Auburn coming off a disappointing loss at LSU, still having trouble with quarterback play. Different team at home though, and they're catching 6.5 points. I'll go ahead and tell you this is my second pick of the week. I like Auburn in the 6.5.
Okay, well, good. You won't get too big a gap on me because again, it got out of hand at LSU, no doubt. But that happens sometimes, right? Especially over there. So I think you get back home. Ole Miss hasn't been playing great on the road. It sets up good for you, and I know Freeze would love to snatch one away from old Lane Kiffin. So I'm taking Auburn in the points too.
Okay, thank you for telling me that. Thinking about Auburn's loss to LSU, Kelly Lynch, who was the number one player coming out of high school her senior year at East Coweta, and she played 4 years for the University of Washington softball. She's at LSU now, but she heard her mom and I, Jan Lynch and myself, would talk about The Boys in the Boat. It's a tremendous book. Jan let me know a little while earlier that's coming out in the movie at Christmas time. The trailer has dropped, The Boys in the Boat. This book is one of the greatest books that I've ever read. I cannot wait. I will be there on opening night, just like I will be there on opening night to see Killers of the Flower Moon. I don't know if you're familiar with that story, Danny, but The Boys in the Boat is incredible, and I hope you'll at least see the movie.
Yeah, I may try to. I have to read. I'm not familiar with that also. I'll look that up.
It was quite extraordinary rowing story during the time and what this team was able to accomplish in the Olympic Games and the Berlin days. I don't want to give away too much, but it's going to be worth you seeing it. You mentioned Florida State was your 5-star last week, and they got it done for you. They're playing the Duke Blue Devils this time. Duke, we know what happened with their quarterback, who was the player of the year in the state of Alabama, Leonard there. This is hard test for them, though, to go to Tallahassee. And the way Florida State's so physical.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's a big number. I mean, anybody's worried about it. I'm not. Especially, with a team scores like Duke, but without Leonard, I don't know. They did score the points last week, but they're not going against that physical defense of FSU. And I'm going to take FSU to cover, so FSU -14.
-14.
I think it's going to be rocking. It's going to be a good game to watch.
Utah and Southern California. Southern California is favored by 7. We know they can score a ton of points. Utah has been doing exceptionally well this year without Cameron Rising. When you think about that and think about what he meant to that team, I think, though, this is a get-well game for Southern Cal coming off the loss to Notre Dame. I was on Notre Dame last week against Southern Cal. I'm flip-flopping to the Trojans, and this is my third pick, Southern California -7 against Utah.
Okay. That was one. I mean, what a beatdown by Notre Dame. That was a great pick you had right there. I think I know everybody I know was on USC with that one, and that was a great pick by you. But SC's been good at home. They're going to bounce back. I'll take Southern Cal -7.
We'll close out our college picking with UCLA at Stanford. Now, look, if you've been tuning into the past 3 or 4 episodes, I'll let it be known that I'm writing a fictional book right now. Miles Fuller is the main character. He plays his college baseball at Stanford. And I've been sort of like, Stanford's been good to me, like they were against Colorado last week when I took them. But I'm flipping to UCLA -17 this week. And Jake does the greatest thing, man. He finds the old school UCLA Bruin logo mascot up and kind of the Bruin leaning on the L and all. And UCLA's been good to me once when I did that. And then I took them last week, and that was one of my losses last week. I didn't have many. I had 2 or 3, but that was one of them. I'm on UCLA. I think I may be on the wrong side, but I'm taking the Bruins.
You're only picking them because of the logo, personally.
I think it's the most adorable thing ever. But yeah,
listen to me, Tony. How can you not take Stanford after that second half comeback against the best team in the country? Have you not been watching ESPN? Colorado is the best team in the country, man. Oh, no,
Yes.
maybe they're not. I don't know. At least ESPN says they are, but that's probably why their picks are so bad compared to ours. But
Saturday Night Live thinks they're like special too. They
Oh,
did a good deal with. They had prime time in studio apparently, or maybe it was somebody
I don't
else.
know how you do it. I don't know how you can do it. I'm taking those 17 points, and I think I'm gonna pick up a win on you on that one, man.
You might very well. We'll see. I still, even though they had a hard time at Corvallis, I still believe in that UCLA defense. So few teams play defense in college football. And I never thought I'd say this about Chip Kelly, but his defense is better than his offense. The Falcons have been a hard team to figure out. Now they're playing Tampa, and they need this victory after a difficult loss against Washington. Tampa's been better than I believe they were going to be. Danny, can the Falcons win in Tampa?
It's what, -2.5?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not falling for that again. I'd say it's Bucks by a million. I'm sorry, man. I'm giving up on the Falcons. I tried. I was going to get on them again, and then now I'm done. So that's it. I'm not talking anymore. But
maybe Jake can find. They wore the creamsicle jerseys this past week, and it's got the Buccaneer, with the knife right there. Maybe he'll find the Buccaneer with the knife, and those creamsicle jerseys were outstanding. Stormy echoes what you just said. He says, "I'm off the Falcons." No more. Steelers need this game against the Rams. I get confused on which one's the Chargers, which one's the Rams. They both play at SoFi Stadium. Both of them don't have the fans that the other team does. Like the Cowboys had as many fans as the Chargers did. When the 49ers played there earlier this year, they had more. Steelers at Rams. What say you?
I don't think the Steelers can score. I'm sorry to say it, but I'm going Rams -3.
Okay, you go with the Rams -3. And then the Dolphins and the Eagles, Sunday Night Football, Eagles favored by 2.
I got Georgia Bulldogs North to cover the 2. Eagles -2.
You got the Eagles -2. All right, I'm going to give one NFL play, and I'm going to go against the major thought here in the room. I'm going to take the Falcons plus the 2.5 points. They didn't burn me last week. They burned you guys. So I'm going to go with the Falcons because I jumped out of that and just took the Ravens. I hit both NFL games. I took the Ravens and I took the Cowboys. And I'm also giving a soccer play that's this weekend. The Arsenal playing Chelsea. So the line is pick 'em. The Arsenal money line is like -130, where Chelsea's +110. Lay the 130 and see if the so-called Gunners can win that game. I haven't done that before, giving out a soccer play, but we're in English Premier League. We're going to give Arsenal over Chelsea. I want to run down Stormy's picks for you right now. Stormy comes into the season 7-4 against the spread. He's got Penn State +4, Navy +11, Iowa -3.5, Oregon -20, Alabama -9, Texas -23.5, Ole Miss -6.5. He's on Florida State with his 5-star -14, Southern Cal -7, Stanford +17. He says no more on the Falcons. Give him the Tampa Bay Buccaneers -2.5. He's got the Rams -3. That's the Los Angeles Rams. And the Miami Dolphins +2. Brian, our West Coast correspondent that was our guest in our previous episode, he's 15-16 against the spread this year. He's got Ohio State -4. His 5-star is Air Force. He likes Air Force -11 as his 5-star going against Danny and I. Iowa -3.5, Oregon -20, Tennessee +9, Texas -23.5, Ole Miss -6.5, and he's an Auburn graduate. Duke +14, Utah +7, Stanford +17. In the NFL, he's got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers -2.5, the Los Angeles Rams -3, and the Philadelphia Eagles -2. Let's run down Danny's picks in case you're just joining us. Ohio State -4, Navy +11, Iowa -3.5, Oregon -20. Danny's 5-star, Tennessee +9. Danny likes Tennessee -23.5. He joins me with Auburn +6.5. He's got Florida State -14. Danny likes Southern Cal -7, and Danny goes with Stanford +17. My picks, and Danny, by the way, is doing very well. 24-16 coming in right on my heels of me, 27-15 I've got the Minnesota Golden Gophers plus 3.5, Auburn plus 6.5, Southern California -7, UCLA -17, the Falcons plus 2.5, my only NFL pick. And I'm going to give one more bonus pick. We won't count this on against the spread, but there are soccer fans that tune in. They say we never talk soccer here on Talking with Tony. So I'm going to go with the Arsenal at Chelsea, and that line is even as far as a pick 'em. And instead of being -120 to both sides, Arsenal's -130, Chelsea's plus 110. Art, what are some of your thoughts after hearing some of the other picks? When you hear everybody on the Buccaneers, do you want to come flip over here with me to the Falcons?
I'm going to stick with what we started the show off as. And when you wake up or late Sunday evening, I'm just going to text you, or you can text me. I can't get no satisfaction like the Rolling Stones, because the Falcons are not going to. There's no way, dude. If they do, then good, more power to it. But I'm off the Falcons, man. I wouldn't switch back if it moved to 7. I wouldn't even switch back.
Wow, now that is making a statement there.
Yeah.
Also, Danny, I've got about 60 seconds left. I want to get your thoughts on UGA football moving forward without Bowers for at least the next 4 or 5 weeks. The bye week coming at a really good time for UGA.
Yeah, I mean, I want to give best wishes to Bowers. Obviously, that guy's amazing. It's been a pleasure to watch. Probably won't come back to UGA, but who knows? Maybe he makes a playoff run if we get there. But we got plenty of tight ends, and the next man up is Kirby's motto. So I feel good about it.
Yeah, well,
I think we're still in good shape.
I think you should. And if I can brag about myself, I need Missouri one more win this season to get over 6.5. Can the Tigers just get me one more win?
Man, I'll tell you right now, you're getting the win this weekend, beating the Gamecocks, and then I think you got 2 more on your schedule. I know Tennessee's my 5-star pick tonight, but they lose at Mizzou, mark it down, and probably Florida loses at Mizzou too. But we'll talk about that later. So.
I appreciate the vote of confidence. We're out of time, but Danny, thanks for joining us. For Jake Barton in Newnan, Georgia, Danny Arp in Lagrange, Georgia, I'm Tony Jones in Auburn, Alabama. We'll see you next time right here on Talking with Tony.